Revealed. A husband's incredible journey after 2 years in prison for his cheating wife's secret. In the small Midwestern town of Willow Creek, Mike's life was the epitome of normal 2 kids, a steady job as a mechanic, and a wife who seemed to fit the mold of the perfect partner. But all that came crashing down one fateful evening when he clocked out after a long day at the garage. A police officer stood waiting, an unreadable expression on his face. The accusation hit like a freight train. Mike was being charged with a crime he didn't commit, one tied to his wife's deceit. Everything he held dear was suddenly a lie. His heart raced as he was led away. Sarah, the woman he'd shared so many dreams with, had turned their life into a circus of manipulation. While he battled disbelief, angry thoughts screamed through his head. He had given her everything, and now she had twisted the knife. The evidence she so meticulously crafted pointed directly at him, and in the eyes of the law, he was guilty. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months in that cold prison cell. The echoes of laughter that once filled his home drifted away into a haunting silence. He could see Lily and Jake's faces, their innocent smiles now replaced with confusion and sadness. The memories of family barbecues and soccer games replayed in his mind like a broken record, tearing at his heart. The community of Willow Creek rallied for his family. Neighbors brought food, friends collected donations, and support flowed like a river. Yet, even surrounded by that love, Mike felt profoundly alone. He was a ghost in his own life, fighting to prove his innocence without the slightest chance. The world outside moved on while he rotted behind bars. His imprisonment was a crucible, testing everything he was made of. He faced off with hardened criminals, but through the chaos, he found an unlikely ally in Franklin, a fellow inmate with a fierce sense of justice and unexpected kindness. Franklin believed in Mike's innocence and began piecing together clues about Sarah's betrayal. That flicker of hope ignited a fire inside Mike, driving him to find a way out of this nightmare. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As time slipped away, so did the bond with his children, and despair tugged at him like a heavy chain. A breakthrough came one evening in the form of a letter from Franklin. In it, critical evidence lay buried, a chance to set things right, to reclaim his life. But with each passing moment, the clock ticked faster, reminding him of their approaching reunion, fraught with unresolved hurt. Finally free after 2 years, Mike stepped out of the prison gates, but the familiar streets of Willow Creek felt foreign. The euphoria of freedom melted into anxiety and dread. How would he face Sarah? More importantly, how would he reconnect with Lily and Jake? Doubts clawed at him as he clutched a letter from Sarah, revealing her own battles with fear and inadequacy. Standing at the crossroads of his life, Mike grappled with an impossible question: could he ever forgive Sarah, and would their family ever be whole again? As he approached their home, the weight of forgiveness hung heavy in the air, leaving unanswered questions taut with suspense, echoing through the quiet streets. Mike took a deep breath, the familiar scent of fresh-cut grass and blooming lilacs washing over him. He'd missed this so much. But the reality of his return closed in on him like a heavy blanket. Every step towards the house felt weighted with hesitation. As he reached the porch, memories of laughter and warmth flooded back, yet it was tinged with an eerie silence. There was no welcoming call from Lily or Jake, no happy barking from their dog Rufus. He raised a hand to knock, but his fingers hesitated, hovering over the door. What if he broke their world again? What if they didn't want him back? With a soft creak, the door swung open, revealing Sarah, her expression a blend of surprise and guilt. She looked older, the shadows under her eyes deepening in the 2 years he'd been gone. For a moment, they stood frozen, everything unspoken stretching out between them. Mike. Her voice was barely a whisper, thick with emotion. Sarah, he could feel his heart hammering against his chest. The name felt foreign on his lips. A trickle of tension slipped away as she stepped aside, allowing him into the home that had once felt like a fortress and now felt more like a battleground. The sight of their family photos, still lining the walls, brought fresh pain. He could almost hear his children's laughter echoing through the air. "Lily and Jake are upstairs," Sarah offered hesitantly, stepping back to give him space. "I didn't know how to, when to tell them you were coming home. Can I see them?" The question slipped out before he could stop it, urgent and raw. "Of course." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and she nodded, making way for him. As Mike climbed the stairs, his heart raced. The door to their shared room was slightly ajar. He pushed it open, and there they were, Lily, now taller and more mature, and Jake, clutching a baseball bat, fingers twitching nervously as he glanced between the two of them. "Dad," Jake said, wide-eyed. The word hung in the air, both an invitation and a barrier. "Hey, buddy," Mike replied, his voice catching. Lily looked up from her sketchbook, disbelief carved across her face. "Is that really you?" she asked softly, pushing a few strands of hair behind her ear. It struck Mike how much they had changed. The innocence he once knew was replaced with a piercing awareness, a deeper complexity rooted in their shared absence. He stepped forward, arms open, but they hesitated. "Dad!" Jake exclaimed, his voice cracking. All hesitation fell away as Jake dropped the bat and rushed into his father's embrace. The warmth radiated through Mike, a balm for years of isolation. Lily soon followed, wrapping her arms around them both. The world outside faded into a blur as they held each other tight, tears slipping down cheeks that once wore smiles. Yet, the reunion was bittersweet. In the corners of his mind, he felt Sarah watching, the weight of their shared past pressing heavily upon him. Would forgiveness be enough? "I missed you so much," Jake finally said, his voice muffled against Mike's shoulder. "Me too, more than you know," Mike replied, squeezing them tighter. But as they stayed wrapped in each other's arms, one thought hung unspoken. What came next? Could they rebuild from the ashes? As Jake pulled back, excitement danced in his eyes. "Can we play catch later? Just like before?" Mike's heart ached. "Of course, I'd love that." But would the shadows of their past allow such normalcy? The thought was like a cloud looming above him, and as he looked toward Sarah, her sorrowful eyes locked on his, he felt the full weight of the journey ahead. Uncertainty wrapped around him as he promised himself that he would do everything in his power to rebuild, but could any of them truly heal? Would the scars of betrayal ever fade? He turned back to his children, determined and yet filled with questions. What if the hardest parts were still ahead? The weight of their embrace lingered in the air as Mike reluctantly released Jake and Lily. His heart felt both lighter and heavier, a confusing mix of joy and guilt flooding his system. Their faces held a combination of hope and apprehension, and it was clear they were all navigating uncharted territory. "Why don't you show Dad your room, Jake?" Lily suggested, trying to sidestep the hesitation that hung between them. "Okay." Jake's enthusiasm was infectious, brightening the dim space like a spark. He grabbed Mike's hand and pulled him down the hall, eager to show off his trophies and posters. "And I finally got a model of the latest spaceship." Mike smiled, adjusting to the reality of being present again. But his mind darted back to the past, the chaos, the betrayal. Would he ever have a future here that felt real? He cast a glance over his shoulder at Sarah, who lingered at the door, arms crossed protectively. Her presence felt like a phantom of their shared history, reminding him of everything that had brought him here. Jake launched into a tale about his baseball game, punctuated by wild hand gestures. "And then I hit a home run, right over the fence." His excitement was contagious, and for a brief moment, Mike surrendered to the joy of being among them. Lily leaned against the doorframe, tracing the edge of her sketchbook with her fingers. "I drew Mom a picture. It's really good." Her words were light, but her eyes told a different story, heavy with unspoken truths. "That's great," Mike exclaimed, trying to keep the mood elevated. "Can I see it later?" "Of course," she responded, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. As they wandered into Jake's room, Mike took in the little things, the way the curtains fluttered softly in the breeze, the worn-out baseball glove resting on the dresser, new books stacked in a corner. These objects spoke volumes about their life in his absence, punctuating the affection and care Sarah had poured into their home despite the pain. "Dad, when can we play catch?" Jake's voice cut through Mike's wandering thoughts. "Soon, I promise," he replied, ruffling Jake's hair. "How about a quick game right now?" "Really?" "Yes." Jake jumped toward the open window, ready to grab his glove. But as excitement surged through the room, a shadow fell over Mike's heart, a gnawing worry that with every joyful moment came the potential for darkness. Would any part of their lives be tainted by the past? Before he could voice these fears, Sarah stepped forward, breaking the spell of happy chaos. "Can we talk, Mike?" Her tone was gentle but firm, slicing through the jubilant atmosphere. It was a reminder of what remained unresolved. Mike nodded, sensing the urgency in her voice as she led him back down the hall. When they reached the kitchen, Sarah turned to him, her expression a blend of regret and determination. "I need you to hear me out about everything that happened." He swallowed hard. "Question is, do you think it'll matter?" Her eyes softened, filled with the raw emotions of an unyielding past. "I believe it will. For us, for the kids." As she stood before him, Mike felt the towering walls of their history looming ominously. Could he truly grasp the truth she was about to reveal? In the silence that followed, the air crackled with both tension and hope. The children's laughter drifted faintly from Jake's room, a reminder of what was at stake. "Okay," Mike finally said, bracing himself for the storm of revelations that was surely ahead. But just then, a hesitant knock echoed from the back door, instantly shattering the moment. They exchanged a puzzled glance. Who could be visiting now? The unanswered knock hung heavy in the air, leading Mike to wonder if someone new might alter the fragile balance he was desperately striving to mend. The knock came again, louder this time. It echoed in the kitchen, bouncing off the walls like a stray ball. Mike felt a chill creep up his spine. Who could it be? Perhaps it was an unwelcome reminder of the life he'd once had, the life that had crumbled beneath his feet. "Are you expecting anyone?" he asked Sarah, a flicker of apprehension in his voice. "No," she replied, her brow furrowing slightly. "Not this time. Let's check it out." They cautiously moved toward the back door, their footsteps soft against the cool tiles. Mike's heart raced as they approached, an instinctive wariness taking hold. Sarah stood near the door, her breath held. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice a hesitant echo in the stillness. Silence followed, and for a moment, Mike felt time stretch out, a thin, taut thread pulled tight. Then he heard a voice, muffled but unmistakably familiar. "Mike? It's me, can we talk?" The breath left Mike's lungs like a deflated balloon. He exchanged a glance with Sarah, whose eyes were wide with shock. It was Jenna, his sister. The tension in the air thickened, curling around them like a shroud. "Should we?" Sarah started, but Mike interrupted her. "Let her in." Before he could change his mind, he swung the door open, revealing Jenna's anxious face. Her blonde hair was pulled back tightly, and the worry lines on her forehead deepened as she looked at him. "Mike, I need you to listen to me. It's about what you did, what you don't know," she said, her voice shaking. "Not now, Jenna," Mike snapped, the walls of his defenses rising with a quickness he couldn't control. "I know what you think of me," she pressed on, stepping into the kitchen, "but this is serious. It involves Sarah." Mike flinched at the mention of Sarah's name. He met her questioning stare, desperate for some clarity. Her face was a mix of confusion and dread, a mirror of his own emotions. "What do you mean?" Mike asked, the weight of her words colliding with his fears. Jenna took a deep breath, steadying herself. "There's something you need to understand about what happened 2 years ago, something I didn't tell you." Words like daggers hit Mike. He wanted to tell her to leave, to protect the fragile bubble of hope that had just begun to form. But he was drawn in curiosity and dread tangling together in his gut. "That's enough," Sarah finally asserted, her voice firm. "If you have something to say, then just say it." Jenna's eyes darted between them, her hesitation palpable. "It's about the affair, Mike. And the reason why," but before she could finish, an iridescent flash of guilt crossed her face. Mike felt the floor shift under him. Was this another layer of betrayal he wasn't prepared for? Suddenly, Jake's voice rang out from his room. "Dad, can we play catch now?" The innocent call jolted Mike from the tension building in the kitchen. He looked at his son, who was blissfully unaware of the storm swirling among the adults. "Yeah, buddy. Just a minute." Mike called back. Jenna took a cautious step closer. "Please, Mike. Just hear me out. This affects Jake too." His heart plummeted. Jake? What more could possibly involve his son? All the bad memories, all the mistakes, they threatened to suffocate him. "Tell me now, Jenna. What is it?" he demanded, feeling the pressure mounting. Jenna steadied herself. "You need to know what really happened that night. It changes everything." Breathless, Mike stood there, bracing himself for the revelation that could change everything he thought he knew. Would the truth shatter the fragile thread of hope he was beginning to weave back together? As Jenna began to speak, Mike felt the walls of his world inching closer. The question lingered in the air. Could he handle whatever was about to unfold? Jenna inhaled deeply, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Mike, what happened that night? It wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice I made to cover up something bigger." Mike clenched his jaw. The urgency in her voice felt like ice running down his spine. "What are you talking about?" "Just spit it out," he urged, his voice strained. "It was the night of your accident," she said, and the world tilted on its axis. "I didn't just cheat with." She paused, her voice faltering. "I didn't just betray you as a sister. I hid something from you about Sarah." Sarah took a hesitant step back, the color draining from her face. "What? What could possibly involve me?" Jenna shook her head, tears spilling over. "I didn't want to. I thought I was protecting you both." "Protecting us from what?" Mike asked, his voice barely above a whisper, yearning yet terrified for her to continue. "It was about the night of your accident," she pressed on. "You weren't just drunk. You were angry, and I know why." Mike could feel the weight of those words thump against his chest like a sledgehammer. Flashes of that night swam in his mind, shadows of anger and pain, the flash of headlights, the deafening crash. "Get to the point, Jenna." "I found out that Sarah," she faltered, looking to Sarah for permission to continue. "Sarah didn't just have an affair with someone else. She was lying about where she was and about why you couldn't reach her that night. It was a bigger betrayal than I ever realized." "Stop," Sarah interrupted, her voice trembling. "That's not true." "I don't let her speak, Sarah," Mike shouted, anger rising within him like a tide. "I need to know." Jenna's voice cracked as she continued. "I received a message from someone claiming to be a friend of hers. It said that she was with someone else, someone dangerous." Those words cut through Mike's anger and struck a chord of fear. His hands shook, and the room felt like it was closing in on him. "What do you mean dangerous?" "Someone who would done anything to keep a secret buried," Jenna said, her breath hitching. "That's why I didn't tell you, Mike. I thought if I just stayed quiet, it wouldn't become worse. But it did." "Worse?" Mike echoed, disbelief flooding his thoughts. "How could it get worse?" "Because," Jenna pressed her palms against the kitchen counter for support, "Jake isn't just your son. He's somebody else's too." The world fell silent. Mike's heart raced, a storm of emotions brewing within. He turned slowly to Sarah, who appeared frozen. The hope in her eyes had morphed into terror, mirroring his. "Please no," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. "This can't be. I've waited so long for us to heal." Her fragile plea felt like a dagger, piercing the raw wound that had only just begun to close. "Mike, I wanted to tell you, but I was scared," Jenna said, trembling now. "You deserve to know the truth, even if it hurts." Mike felt a whirlwind of thoughts crashing over him: loyalty, love, pain. Everything was unraveling. What would he do? Should he believe Jenna or trust the woman he loved? Could the truth shatter their already broken family? Would it destroy the little hope they had left? Jake's voice rang out again from the other room, excited and innocent, calling for him to come. "Dad, are you coming?" "We have to go to him," Sarah said, urgency in her voice. "He can't hear any of this." "No," Mike said, his tone piercing the chaos. "We have to talk about this now. It can't wait." As he looked at Jenna, the weight of the truth pressing against his heart, He knew the final revelation could either fracture his family completely or offer a new path to healing. But which path would he take? There was only one way to find out. Mike felt the tension thickening the air, a tangible weight that hung between them. The thought of Jake drowning in the storm of adult betrayal shook him to the core. "Jenna, you have to explain," he said, his voice low but firm. "You said there was more. Why didn't you go to the police? Why keep quiet?" "I was afraid for all of us," Jenna replied, her eyes darting to Sarah, searching for understanding. "If what I heard was true, involving someone dangerous, it wasn't just an affair. It was something darker. I thought revealing the truth could put you and Jake at risk." As Mike processed her words, anger and confusion swirled within him like a tornado. "Darker? Just tell me, Jenna. We deserve the truth, don't we, Sarah?" For a moment, Sarah remained silent, as if seeking the right words while choking on the weight of uncertainty. "I didn't have an affair with anyone dangerous, I swear," she finally pleaded, her voice trembling. "I was with my mother because I thought you needed space after the accident." "You were still so angry. But you didn't tell me that," Mike replied, desperation lacing his tone. "You let me think the worst about you." "I didn't want to hurt you," she countered, tears brimming in her eyes. "I thought if I stepped away, it would give us the time we needed. I didn't know about this other person enough." Jenna snapped, raising her hand to silence them both. "You're fighting about moments that don't matter anymore. What matters is figuring out what happened that night and what danger it still holds for us." Mike's heart thundered as he processed her words. Right now, every second felt precious. "You said you had evidence," he said, urgency tightening his throat. "What did that message say? Who is this person?" Jenna's shoulders slumped as she pulled out her phone, scrolling through notifications until she found the message. It was anonymous, but they claimed that Sarah was with someone involved in something illegal. "I didn't believe it at first, but when I looked into it, I found a name." She hesitated, the tremor in her voice trembling. "A name linked to the drug scene, the kind that preys on vulnerable people." Mike felt cold. "What do you mean? You can't just throw that out there." "And it was a guy named Jason," Jenna blurted out. "He had a record, and I thought if I confronted you then, you'd have gone straight to him. It would put all of us at risk." The name hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Mike looked at Sarah, whose expression shifted from disbelief to concern. "Do you know him?" "I don't know," she admitted slowly, her pulse racing. "I've heard the name whispered in the circles I've been. I thought it was just talk, just rumors." This opened a deeper chasm of fear for Mike. "Why didn't you ever mention it?" "Because I believed it was just gossip," Sarah insisted, desperation seeping into her voice. "I never imagined it could be true. I thought my mother's health was all I had to deal with." "Now it sounds like everything is spiraling," Mike muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose as feelings of betrayal stacked upon heartbreak. "What do we do? If this guy is connected to all this, we have to protect Jake." Jenna stepped forward, determination replacing her hesitance. "I'll contact the source of the message. I'll find out the truth. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." Before Mike could respond, Jake's voice rang out once more, innocent and blissful. "Dad, Mom, are you coming or not?" The reality of their shattered family and the innocence of a child collided, pushing everything to a boiling point. Mike felt the walls closing in again, the weight of their choices creating a cage around him. "We can't let him come in," he insisted, panic rising. "He can't know any of this." And yet they stood at the precipice of something larger than any of them could have ever imagined. Could they face the truths buried deep in their past, or would it unravel everything they held dear? As they listened to Jake's sweet laughter filter through the closed door, Mike felt a flicker of hope amid despair. But would it be enough to light their way through the darkness ahead? The room felt heavy with unspoken words, the air thickening as Mike's mind raced. Things that once seemed stable were morphing into a treacherous maze. He turned to Jenna, desperation etched into his features. "You're really going to reach out to the source? Can we trust them?" Jenna nodded slowly, her resolve firm. "We have to take a chance. What if it is true? I can't sit back and watch while your family is at risk." As Mike contemplated her words, the laughter of Jake danced in his ears, an innocent sound in the midst of chaos. He envisioned his son's cheerful little face, the spark in his eye. How could he protect that light? Mike clenched his fists. We have to be strong for him. He can't know any of this yet. Not until we're sure. Sarah's face reflected fear and determination combined. What if we're running out of time? If we wait too long, what if Jason finds out we're looking into him? Mike couldn't shake the dread pooling in his stomach. We need to come up with a plan, he said, pacing now. Jenna, I need you to be careful. If this guy is dangerous. I will be careful, she promised, her voice steady. We can do this, Mike. We don't have a choice. Then let us split up, he suggested, feeling urgency wind itself around his heart. I'll take Jake to the park for a bit. Sarah, you stay here. Jenna, you can start reaching out to that source. We'll all meet back here later to compare notes. A wave of uncertainty washed over them. But the thought of Jake's happiness pushed through the tension like a beam of light. I love you both, Mike said softly, looking at Jenna and Sarah. Whatever happens, we'll get through this. We owe it to him. The words seemed to wrap around them like a fragile promise as they each stepped into their roles. Mike found Jake, oblivious to the storm brewing just outside their little world. Together, they set off for the park, laughter echoing through the air like a shield against the unknown. The day was crisp, and the sun fought to break through the clouds, filling Mike with a faint sense of well-being that time might allow him to piece things back together. As they made their way to the swings, Mike stole glances at his son, each smile causing hope to blossom within him. Hey buddy, wanna race? He asked, a spark igniting in Jake's eyes. Yeah, Jake squealed, taking off with all the determined energy of childhood, but as he chased after Jake, thoughts of Jason crept back into his mind, darkening the edges of joy. What was this man capable of? What if they weren't only racing against time, but against something far more sinister? Meanwhile, back at the house, Sarah paced in anxiousness, her thoughts racing as she waited for Jenna to make contact. She pulled out her phone, hesitating, until she finally allowed herself to breathe. She would do whatever it took to shield Jake from the truth. Yet deep down, a knot of fear tightened. She could only hope Jake remained shielded from this world that had erupted around them. Minutes felt like hours until Jenna finally stepped through the door, her expression a mix of resolve and trepidation. I called, she announced, and Mike's heart sank. They said we might be in deeper than I thought. They didn't want to say too much over the phone. The air grew charged with uncertainty as everyone wore their fear like a shroud. What do you mean? Mike swallowed, the pit in his stomach expanding. What's coming? That's just it. They said something big is going down. And we might be targeted. The implications of her words were suffocating. Everything they had worked to protect now felt like sand slipping through their fingers. Jake's laughter drifted ever closer. Mike felt a sharp pang in his chest. What kind of father was he if he couldn't shield his son from this? Let us not panic, Sarah said, though her own voice quivered with barely hidden emotion. We can still figure this out. The evening seemed to stretch out endlessly as they tried to forge a path in front of this growing storm. But as they gazed at one another, uncertainty hung thick in the air, demanding attention. Could they truly outsmart the shadow lurking just beyond their reach? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the darkness creeping in felt like a warning they could no longer ignore. What awaited them would test the very fabric of their family, and Mike couldn't shake the fear that something was headed their way, something that would challenge their strength to the core. The park buzzed softly with the sounds of laughter and distant chatter. Mike watched Jake swing back and forth, his little legs pumping with joy. But despite the bright world around him, shadow clouds loomed in Mike's heart. Each giggle and cheer felt like a fragile moment they could lose at any second. Faster, Dad. Push me higher. Jake's voice pierced through Mike's racing thoughts. He complied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He wanted so badly to believe the lies of normalcy. Just an hour more, that was all they needed. Somewhere, somehow, answers were forming. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text. He pulled it out, heart sinking as he saw Jenna's name illuminated on the screen. Need to talk. Urgent. Jake, can you swing by yourself for a minute? Mike asked, worry twisting his stomach. Okay. Jake grinned, A boy lost in a world of make-believe. Mike quickly stepped aside, fingers trembling as he typed back, "What's wrong?" Waiting for her response felt eternal. Mike gripped the fence, hands slick with sweat. When the text finally came, it sent a chill straight through him. "I think I know what Jason wants. But it's worse than we thought. Meet me at the coffee shop?" His gut twisted. What does that even mean? He muttered under his breath. He returned to the swings, pushing his son harder, desperately trying to etch this innocent moment in his memory. Yet the laughter felt hollow, a soundtrack to a ticking clock counting down to something they couldn't fathom. How could a simple trip to the park twist into something so heavy? "Jake, how about we grab some ice cream?" Mike suggested, hiding the urgency in his voice. "Your favorite flavor." "Cookies and cream," Jake shouted, bouncing with excitement. The drive to the coffee shop felt long and quiet. Mike focused on the road, but his mind replayed Jenna's text. What was Jason after? Money? Revenge? Or was it something darker that no one could see yet? As he parked, his heart raced. "Stay close, okay?" "I will." Jake beamed, grabbing his hand as they entered. The warmth of the shop enveloped them, its cozy buzz a world away from their worries. But before Mike could order, Jenna appeared, her face pale and drawn. "Hey," she said, glancing around nervously. "I got your message," he replied, a sense of dread settling in. "What does Jason want?" Jenna leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. "He wants to make a deal, a dangerous one." "Deal?" Mike echoed, the word feeling heavy. "What kind of deal?" "He's looking for something from us. Something only we can give." She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "He's threatening to hurt Jake if we don't comply." Every atom in Mike's body froze, thoughts racing wildly. What does he mean? How can he hurt Jake? Jenna shook her head, eyes wide. "I don't know yet, but it's serious, Mike. We have to figure this out now. We can't let him get close." An icy grip of fear twisted in Mike's chest. All his protective instincts surged, and for a moment, he felt completely helpless. The fear of losing Jake was unthinkable. "What do we do?" "Rally those we can trust." "We need a plan to confront him," Jenna replied, determination igniting in her eyes. "We can't back down. If we stay silent, the danger will only grow." But the enormity of the situation loomed over them. Mike felt sweat pool at his brow. This was no longer just about secrets or threats. It was about keeping Jake safe, and that was a burden he couldn't shoulder alone. As he turned, Jake stood there, ice cream cone in hand, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beyond him. The sweet innocence of his son tugged at Mike's heart, threatening to crack the wall of resolve he'd built around himself. "I'm scared," Mike admitted quietly, not just to Jenna but to himself. "What if we can't stop him?" "We will," Jenna said fiercely, grabbing his arm. "We have to. We owe it to him." As they locked eyes, Mike felt a surge of determination racing through him. This wasn't just their battle anymore. It was for Jake's future, and he would do everything to shield that innocent light. But in the depths of his heart, doubt lingered. Could they really face this threat head-on, or would everything spiral out of control? The unanswered question hung heavy in the air. The darkness might be closing in fast, but they had no choice. They had to rise, and in doing so, Mike couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps, in the very heart of chaos, there lay a chance for unexpected resilience. But just as hope flickered, his phone buzzed again, chilling the fragile moment. Another message from Jenna read, "We need to meet Jason. He wants a face-to-face. Tonight." What lay ahead felt more dangerous than any darkness they had faced so far. Would the meeting unveil a way to save them or seal their fate? Mike's heart thudded in his chest as he read Jenna's message again. The coffee shop, so warm and inviting only moments before, suddenly felt like a trap. He looked over at Jake, who was still lost in his bubble of joy, oblivious to the whirlwind of fear swirling around them. It gnawed at Mike's insides, the urgency clawing at him like a desperate child. "Jenna, we can't just confront him like that." What if Mike's voice trembled, not quite able to articulate the fear of what Jason was truly capable of. Jenna shook her head, determination lined on her face. "We don't have time to waste." He called us out. It'll only get worse if we wait. We need to know what he wants. Tonight? Mike's voice was barely louder than a whisper. Everything around him felt surreal. The laughter, the clinking of cups, even the smell of brewed coffee seemed like a distant echo, fading into an ominous backdrop. What if it's a trap? Then we'll be ready, she said firmly, exuding strength that Mike desperately clung to. Her resolve was like a flame, igniting a flicker of hope within him as he absorbed her words. In that moment, he realized they shared a mission keeping Jake safe. We can't let fear dictate our choices. Jake, sensing the tension, looked up, his bright eyes searching their faces. What is wrong? He asked innocently, his ice cream forgotten and beginning to drip. Mike knelt beside him, forcing a smile. Nothing, buddy. Just adult stuff. How about we finish your ice cream before it melts? He ruffled Jake's hair, all the while feeling the weight in his chest. It would be easier if he could just explain everything to Jake. But how could he shatter that innocent trust? As they finished their treats, Mike felt Jenna's eyes on him, gauging his readiness. She glanced at the clock, worry etching her features. We should head to the meeting spot. Jason will want to keep this under wraps. If he's following through on his threats, he'll have eyes everywhere. The drive felt longer than it was. Every red light, every turn felt heavy with the implications of what was to come. Mike gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. He hated the feeling of cowardice creeping in. For Jake, he had to be brave. The stakes were too high now. We can do this, right? Mike asked Jenna, trying to infuse a sense of courage into his voice. Absolutely, she replied, her voice steady. We're in this together. As they approached the secluded parking lot, filled with shadows, Mike felt a cold wave of dread wash over him. It was dark, the streetlights flickering as if even they were uncertain of what was coming. We should park a little further, he suggested, wanting to create distance, a buffer against the unknown. Good idea, Jenna agreed, scanning their surroundings. The unease in the air felt thick enough to cut, but with every passing moment, Mike felt the resolve solidify within him. If Jason meant to hurt Jake, the thought sent a shockwave through him, igniting the fierce protector he knew resided inside. He pulled into a dimly lit spot, glancing around. Stay close, Jake, he murmured, reaching back to grab his son's hand as they exited the car. Can I help? Jake asked, his innocent excitement cutting through Mike's anxiety. Just be yourself, Squirt, Mike reassured him, realizing that in Jake's simplicity lay a kind of strength. As they moved toward the darker corner of the lot, Jenna fell into step beside Mike, her voice a mere whisper. Remember, we stick together. We can outsmart him. What could Jason possibly want that would lead him here tonight? Questions piled up, but they didn't matter now. Each step drew them closer to confrontations and uncertain futures. The weight of impending confrontation settled heavily in Mike's chest, but then he thought of Jake, his laugh, his spirit, his bright future. This was about more than just a threat. It was a fight for their family's safety, a duty that breathed life into his courage. As they reached the outlined figure in the shadows, Mike took a deep breath, nerves steadying into a determined calm. Time to find out what you really want. Jason, Mike murmured to himself. But just as he braced himself for the confrontation, a sound broke the silence. A distant scream echoed, reverberating in the night and sending chills down their spines. What was about to unfold had the potential for chaos, a chaos that could unravel everything Mike had fought to protect. With his heart racing, he stepped forward, ready to face the darkness ahead. Could they truly stand against the storm that Jason was about to unleash? The scream echoed through the night, haunting the shadows. Mike's heart raced as adrenaline surged through his veins. What was happening? Their fragile moment of unity could shatter at any second. He turned to Jake, whose innocent eyes widened with confusion. Panic clawed at Mike's throat, but he masked it with a reassuring smile. Stay close, buddy. They took a cautious step toward the sound, each movement weighed down by the fear of the unknown. Jenna's calm presence next to him was a lifeline, her determination sparking a flicker of bravery within him. Whatever happens, we're together, she reminded him softly. Right, he nodded, squeezing Jake's tiny hand in his. But what if that wasn't enough? Every shadow felt like a hidden threat, and each step drew them deeper into uncertainty. Just then, the outline of a figure approached, illuminated by the flickering streetlight. Mike's breath caught in his throat as recognition hit. Jason stood before them, his presence commanding and sinister, a smirk twisting his lips. Well, if it isn't the family. All here to play nice? Jason's arrogance twisted something inside Mike. Fear twisted tightly in his chest, but he also felt rage boiling beneath the surface. This man was a threat to everything he held dear. What do you want? Mike demanded, standing in front of Jake like a shield. You want to hurt my son? Jason chuckled, a sound devoid of humanity. You're more naive than I thought, Mike. This is exactly the kind of moment I was waiting for. Families are such fragile things, aren't they? Jake clung to Mike's side, battle instincts inching around like a lion tense for an ambush. Mike swallowed hard, keeping his protective instinct front and center. If you want something from us, he said through clenched teeth, you'll have to go through me first. In that moment, Mike felt something shift glaringly within him. Gone was the man who'd been lost in self-pity and anguish. Now stood a father driven by purpose. Jenna stepped up beside him. We're not afraid of you, Jason, she asserted, her voice steady. We know the truth now. Jason's smile faltered, confusion flickering across his features. The truth? You really think you know the truth? You're still living in a fairy tale. He stepped closer, intensity radiating from him. Jake shouldn't be here, Mike. He's a pawn, a bargaining tool. Jake looked up at Mike, fear blinking from his innocent eyes, and in that moment, the world narrowed to a laser focus. Mike knelt down in front of Jake, drawing him close. Hey, buddy, he said softly, forcing a brave smile. You're safe. I promise. Feeling the love swell within, Mike turned to face Jason again. You can't use him against us. You have no power here. A flicker of anger crossed Jason's face, his composure cracking. That's where you're wrong, Mike. Just remember that what you keep hidden will always find a way to rise. Then, from behind the trees, two more men emerged beady-eyed, hardened, prepared for a struggle. Mike's heart dropped, the realization crashing upon him like a tidal wave. This was no simple deal. This was a full-on confrontation, and they were outnumbered. Jenna held her ground, stepping in front of Mike and Jake, her gaze fierce. We're not playing your game. We'll expose you for who you are. Mike clenched his fists, an electric mix of fear and determination buzzing through him. This wasn't just about saving Jake, it was about reclaiming their lives. Their family didn't deserve to be puppets in Jason's twisted play. They would fight together, every last one of them. With a sudden surge of courage, Mike stepped forward, no longer willing to back down. You want a battle? He shouted, directing Jason's attention decisively at him. I'm right here. But know this, you'll never tear this family apart. Jake's grip tightened around Mike's hand, and the boy's presence solidified the resolve within him. The laughter in the park faded away, leaving only the sound of their hearts beating as warriors ready to face the storm. In that pivotal moment, the burden of their past felt lighter. It wasn't just about betrayal or secrets anymore. It was about love, resilience, and family. As Mike stood tall, facing the darkness, he felt a warmth radiating from Jake, an unwavering trust that ignited a fire inside him. With determination etched across his features, Mike was ready to face whatever came next. The impending chaos didn't scare him anymore. Together, they would reclaim their lives. This time, Jason wasn't the strongest force in the room. Family was. They were ready to confront the truth and protect their future. No shadows would consume them tonight. The storm wouldn't win. Let's go, Mike said to Jenna, his grip on Jake tightening as he prepared to take a stand against the darkness threatening to swallow them whole. And as they moved forward, hope began to rise, more fierce and determined than ever before. Together, they would forge their path, paving the way for a new beginning, filled with forgiveness, healing, and love. But first, they had to prove that family was unbreakable. And in that fight, victory meant everything. As they braced themselves, Mike felt a clarity. No matter what lay ahead, they would face it together as a family. Now more than ever, unity was their strongest weapon. They would win. And now, you have to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support your favorite creators. Don't wait not even one more second. Comment your reactions and feelings about this thrilling ending.